Okay, it's time to talk to Vanessa Lane Jennings. The show is called Legal Lane, and the opportunity for you to call and ask a legal question is right now. The number is 622-9622, 622-WOCA. Vanessa is here as an attorney representing the law firm of the Jennings Law Firm, which is her own law firm. I guess you figured that out based on the last name. And it doesn't matter what kind of legal question you might be talking about. Maybe you were in a traffic accident and you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, to use a cliche, or maybe you're going through a divorce, or somebody you know is looking for help with child support, or one thing or another, as the recipient or the person who has to pay it. Vanessa is here to answer all those questions. Good morning, and the number is 622-9622. Good morning, Vanessa.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm well. How's everyone?
Good. We there was a child support story the other day. There was this guy who lost his child to adoption, to a foster home, because he didn't pay $72, $27, something like that, in child support. Because he went to jail because he didn't pay his child support, and so while in jail, the state took the child.
The state took away his rights, and they wouldn't.
Have you ever heard of that?
When he got out
Isn't
of
that
jail,
kind of extreme?
That is
'Cause how could you-
extreme. I'm going to go with there was probably some more facts there that weren't.
Oh, I'm sure there is, yeah, but it was just I can't remember who told us that story. Somebody on the air.
What state was that in?
Do you remember?
I can't recall
Where it was?
I
No.
can't recall.
Ah,
It was
man.
such
I
a
know
sad
there's-
story.
There's certain states that take away rights a lot easier than Florida does. I know I have a Florida case that's tangentially related to a California case. So we have a California attorney and a Florida attorney. And the California courts get rid of parental rights a lot easier than
Really?
than Florida
That's
courts.
scary, isn't it?
It is.
Wow. So have you ever had anybody who the state wants to take away the children because of, I don't know, religious belief? You always hear these stories about parents who say, and I'm not in agreement with this necessarily, but they don't want to bring their children to the doctor. And the state says, well, we're taking your children away because you don't want to bring them to the doctor. I mean, I don't know. To me, I don't agree with them, but at the same time, I don't know that the state has a right to take the children either.
Right. I don't have a case where the state's trying to. I have cases where another parent's trying to take the child away and take them out of that type of lifestyle.
Oh, because the other parent doesn't like doctors or something?
Right.
Oh, wow.
They're against getting any type of vaccinations or going to doctors in general.
Phew, that's a tough one.
Or even sending them to school. So, I mean, it's a holistic problem because their religious beliefs are you homeschool, no doctors, no medication at all.
And that's really hard because people love their children, but the state or whatever entity still has to respect the other person's beliefs in this situation.
The line comes with what's the best interest of the child, and is the child actually being put into some type of irreparable harm and danger? And the answer could potentially be yes. I mean, it depends on the facts and circumstances of every case. But I think that's why they're so heavily litigated. Once, a religious organization's found that their beliefs go against mainstream and actually could endanger the child.
Can I ask you to maybe just move a little closer to that microphone? I'm trying to boost your volume a little bit. Yeah, so that must be hard for you. If you have two clients, let's say, and they both are the opposite end of that. And then maybe they're not connected to each other's case. But let's say you have somebody who's divorced and that ex-spouse wants to keep the child away, and then you have another client who has an ex-spouse, and this person wants to keep with the doctor. You know what I mean? You might have two. You have to look at what's best for both of them in your job.
Correct. I have both ends of the spectrum. I actually have another case where the parent doesn't believe in vaccination. It's only vaccination. They're not. They go to. They're in regular school and everything else. But it's just that particular her beliefs that her other child, whether she's right or wrong. And I'm not opening that door at all. But her belief is just that her other child received the vaccinations and then came down with autism. So
a lot of people believe that. Yeah.
Whether that is true, whether that's false, that's not for necessarily myself to say, but that's just that's not necessarily a religious belief because we're talking about religious belief, but that's her personal medical interpretation.
Right.
So
we do have some phone calls coming through, so let me patch them through for you. Good morning. Thank you for calling and for hanging on a little bit. Vanessa Lane Jennings is on with you now. Good morning.
Hi, Ms. Jennings. Is there in Florida a certain amount of money that is considered appropriate for child support, baby less than a year old?
Well, sir, there's actually no specific dollar amount per child. What they do is they take I'm going to presume it's your child just for the sake of this because it makes it easier. They would take your net income every month. They would take the mother's net income every month. And then the first step is to determine proportionally how much each parent is responsible for paying. Once that percentage is determined, they go through a lot of other calculations, depending on how many overnights are exercised by each party, how much daycare is, who's paying those daycare costs, who's paying healthcare costs. They factor in all of these, if there's insurance, they factor in all these different things, and then they come up with a number. So there's no flat fee, it's actually a calculation.
Yeah, it's actually my niece.
Okay.
And does the, how do I say this, does the father's wife's income play into that at all?
The only time that the...
Strange, but...
No, that's not a strange question at all. I get it all the time. The only time that her income will come into this is if he and she have a child. Even if they're not going for child support for that child. Right. Let's say they're married and they have a child together. What the court will do is factor out if they got divorced, how much the father would have to pay in child support to her, and they factor it in to child support for your niece. Does that make sense? So it doesn't act...
Sort of. I couldn't believe when she told me she was getting $150 a month for a 8 or 10-month-old baby. I'm sorry.
Well, and that's going to be for life. So that's, and I don't want to say that's a low amount, but that is actually a little bit on the lower side.
That's what I figured. I had to convince her. I had to even call the FTC or whatever, Florida Family Services, to get her started on it. All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your information.
Not a problem.
Thank you for the call. We do have another call coming in. Good morning. You're on the air with Vanessa Lane Jennings.
Hi. I'm actually from New York. I just relocated here because we left my son's father, and he's a drug addict, and he actually did some pretty bad things, and that's why we had to leave. And neither state is recognizing me right now. The court has told me that I'm not allowed to pursue, looking to get residency in Florida right now until they've decided, who's going to have the custody. They're aware that he's on drugs. They're waiting for him to actually take the drug test to prove the claims that I'm making. But he keeps not showing up, so it keeps getting prolonged. So we've been here in Florida for 5 months and not able to get any kind of Medicaid or any kind of state assistance or anything because I'm not allowed to get residency. So I don't know what to do. And, every time I've told them that, it's really making it very hard for me and my son, they're just, prolonging it and prolonging it and prolonging it. And now I have an inquest coming up, and I'm hoping that that's going to settle everything, but there's no promise that it will.
Okay, let's take one step at a time. Do you currently rent or reside in a place where you pay money to live every month in Florida?
No, I had to come and stay with my parents. I was a stay-at-home mom in New York, and
no, and that's fine.
For me to stay with there, so I came.
And did you get a Florida? You're good. I'm going to ask very short questions, and I apologize.
Okay.
Did you get a Florida driver's license?
No, because they told me I can't do that yet. I can't pursue.
Who told you couldn't do that yet? Ma'am, who told you couldn't do that yet?
The courts and the lawyers.
Okay, well, because the you would just go to the DMV to get a driver's license to show proof of residency, because you only have to become eligible to go to court on child custody matters, you need to be here for 6 months. So you need to establish that. And one of the ways to do that is if you have a lease, that's one way, and then you don't need a Florida driver's license. But if you don't have a lease, then another way, and the most common way, even if you do have a lease, is through your Florida driver's license.
Well, the reason they told me that I couldn't pursue residency is because I'm getting the New York legal aid because I was a resident there, and they tell me that if I pursue residency here and try to get legal aid in Florida, I will lose the New York lawyer that they've assigned to me, and Florida doesn't have jurisdiction in the New York case. That's what I've been told. I'm just trying to verify if all that's true and if I really have to wait like this.
And I have no idea, and I'm going to be honest because I don't deal with legal aid at all in either New York, definitely not New York, but also in Florida, so I don't know how that works. But what I can say is New York has the case, but once you've lived here for 6 months and you can prove that you've lived here for 6 months through one of the ways that's allowed by the court system, you can then go and file what's called a petition for domestication, which means that you would take your New York case and domesticate it in Florida because you and the child now reside in this county, in the state.
Okay.
Okay? And then once you do that, then the Florida courts have jurisdiction, and the Florida courts can amend, can change, can do whatever they need to do.
Like, I think that they're trying to decide whether or not they should allow me, because I relocated before filing for custody. And I think that they're trying to decide, because normally, the custody is decided and then, like, a relocation petition is put in or something like that. But
were you married?
Explain to me, is that it's backwards or something?
Well,
like, relocated first and then filed?
Were you married?
No.
Okay. If you want to give our firm, there's actually a lot of little things. If you want to give our firm a call, our number is 352-804-0092. I'd be happy to answer some of the questions because it's going to go beyond the scope of the show. But there's just a lot of little questions. Okay?
Right. So it was 804-0092?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Not a problem. Have a good day.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, 804-0092. How many other people might be relating to what she's talking about?
I've had several, especially when it gets to domestications and, or registering your foreign case in foreign is anything outside the state of Florida.
Right.
So registering them in the state of Florida. Because you can register them, which is it's a simple process, so that way the Florida courts can recognize them and enforce them, but you can't modify them or change them unless you domesticate it, and that gets a little bit tricky.
And is the case different? You asked her if she was married, and she said no, so that means she wasn't married. She's not married to the child's father. So
Correct.
If she was married to the child's father, would that be a different case than since she's not married to the child's father?
It would just be a different level because she moved without parental consent. Mm-hmm. So it just goes on. It would open a different venue and a different set of facts and circumstances that we'd have to deal with.
Boy, this is hard.
The other question I wanted to throw in there was this. When you said get a driver's license, let's say she doesn't drive or can't drive.
Florida ID card.
That's all you need? Because I know some people who don't have driver's license, but they have a card that looks like a license.
But with the red bar across the top.
Is that what it is? I don't know.
It's a Florida ID. It has like a red strip.
It's our friend Doug. He doesn't drive. He's got an ID.
So if she gets a Florida ID card, that means she's no longer a resident of the state of Florida, of the state of New York then.
Correct.
So that puts an entirely different spin on the case then.
Right, well, that shows proof that she's a resident here and she can take use of our courts. Mm-hmm. But she's trying, from what I understood, she was trying to remain a resident of New York, so she would continue her New York case, which is okay, and she can do her New York case and continue doing that. But if she's going to stay in Florida, that might be something that she might want to look at. But there's a couple other questions I would have for her.
Okay, we'll take a break. I see other people calling in. I do see the phone lines lit up, so please don't bail out on us. We want to take your calls, but we also have to take a commercial break. I'll keep it as quick as I can, which means it's going to be 2 minutes long, okay? So we got a 2-minute break, and we'll be right back with Vanessa, and we'll take your phone calls. I think you hit a nerve with this one, Vanessa. We will be right back.
Are you in need of custom screen printing, embroidery, or promotional items? Then look no further and come visit the brand new Legacy Team Sales. LTS is conveniently located off 17th Street next to Armstrong Homes in beautiful Ocala. We offer the best prices and highest quality products for your company, team, school, or nonprofit. Whether looking for screen printed shirts, embroidered polos, or travel team uniforms, you'll be sure to find it at Legacy Team Sales. Come visit our new 27,000 square foot facility. Our friendly and knowledgeable sales staff staff will assist you in every part of your custom purchase. LTS carries the hottest brands in the industry like Under Armour, Russell, Mizuno, Asics, Badger Sports, Gildan, Pacific, Ogio, and many more. At LTS, screen printing embroidery is done in-house and we guarantee customer satisfaction. Stop by, give us a call, or check us out on the web at shoplts.com. Remember the name, LTS.
Here's what you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
Workers who listened to nature sounds performed better on tough cognitive tests than those who did the tasks in silence. Spices like curry and red pepper especially contain compounds that rev up your metabolism, and at bedtime, that not only makes it harder to fall asleep, it also increases the risk of having vivid, disturbing dreams. If you're having trouble getting things done and reaching your goals, it could be down to the way you speak to yourself.
Intelligence for your life on the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
Stay informed on everything going on in the villages with the Village Spectator newspaper. The Village Spectator is exclusively devoted to the villages with news, commentary, and more. And yes, they have Tom's Picks, a free referral for people who are looking for a company to do work for them. Tom's Picks will refer the company that fits your needs, and all we ask is that you tell them where you heard about them. Call Tom's Picks at 804-1223 and pick up your copy of the Village Spectator today.
Now read Ocala Downtown newspaper online.
Palm Garden of Ocala leads in the area of orthopedic care with proven outcomes. Planning to have a new hip or knee joint due to arthritis or as the result of a fall? Palm Garden may be the answer. Guests appreciate the services of highly trained therapists and state-of-the-art equipment. And if you pre-register, you can secure a private room at no extra charge by mentioning this ad. Palm Garden makes no bones about it. They provide the best in orthopedic care. Call 854-6262. That's 854-6262.
All right, 8 minutes before 11 o'clock. You have hit a nerve with this subject, Vanessa, so let's take some more
I hit
calls.
lots of nerves.
The phone number is 622-9622. That's what the show is about. I said it over and over that we clicked with you, and that means we have fun with you on the air, and it's maybe not fair to the listeners who want to ask serious legal questions. And so that's why I always say, guys, just ignore our silliness because we can tend to be silly, Robin and I. And Vanessa, I think you're in the same ballpark with us. Although you could switch it off like that. I just watched you do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's take some more phone calls. The phone number is 622-9622. Good morning. You're on the air with Vanessa.
Yes, good morning. Good morning. Two quick things. One of the another way to establish residency in Florida is the declaration of domicile. Used to be you had to have a declaration of domicile on file in order to register your child in school. I don't know if that still is in effect. But
doesn't that require, and I haven't heard of it in a while, sir, but doesn't that require them to actually be renting? Because I think that was one of the requirements of that. I don't know if they could be staying with another party rent-free. And I don't remember, and that's because it only has been brought up like maybe one time in my entire practice that I've heard of that.
And then the other thing is kind of a hypothetical.
Sure.
I suspect that if child support were made tax deductible the way alimony is, people would pay their child support more regularly. Just a thought in the dark. Have a good morning, all.
Thank you.
You think that's true?
Child support's the right of the child, so I don't know if taxing it would be I don't know if they would pay it more. Maybe they would. I don't know.
But in a way, it's what it's like saying. It's like saying when Dad is watching the kids that he's babysitting. You've always heard that you're not babysitting, you're his father.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
So you don't want a tax deductible because it's almost like you're giving to a charity. No, you're not. You're taking care of your child.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah. We do have another phone call. Good morning. You're on there with Vanessa.
Yes. Good morning.
Good morning.
Child adoption procedures, are they complicated enough that one should really have a lawyer to help them with it?
It depends on what type of adoption. The answer is yes, but it depends on what type of adoption cases that you're talking about. Because if you're dealing with an adoption, like if it's a private adoption from a mother who's giving up the child, there's also step-parent adoptions. Step-parent adoptions, I would still say yes, but those are ones you can more readily do on your own. But you're going to want to make sure that there's contracts in place and that there's all the steps have been taken to ensure that there's an easy transfer once the child's born. So I definitely
thank you.
would have an attorney.
The phone lines are open if you want to call. The number is 622-9622. If you have something that you would like to talk to Vanessa about and you are not comfortable mentioning it on the air, then our recommendation is to go to the Jennings Law Firm and sit with Vanessa, and she can help you out. Do you want to give the address?
Our address is 2945 Northeast 3rd Street, and that's in Ocala, Florida, and we are the second building.
And I've always thought with child custody, and then they have the child support payments. Usually it's the man paying the money to the woman. And then who knows what that mom uses that money for. So I would think that since both incomes are looked at, and she's got X number of dollars to support to the child, and he's got X number of dollars, they should both be responsible to send them in to the court. That should be a savings account for the child, and then when the child needs shoes or he's going on a school outing or something and he needs that money, the parent should go there, withdraw the funds, and then bring back the receipts. So then that way when that child gets to be 21, he can actually see that, you know, all of that money was spent on his behalf and the mother didn't take that money and not spend it on him. Because you hear that so many times.
I hear what you're saying, and I respectfully disagree. Mm-hmm. And the only reason I do is because she still has to pay rent. She still has to pay the light bill. She still has to put food on the table. She still has to there's incidental costs in your everyday life that you have to pay for. And that's what child support goes for. It's making sure that there is the roof over their head, that there is, you know, all their basic needs are met. Because you know, that goes back to the hierarchy of needs. If you don't have the basic needs, which is, you know, your shelter, then your other needs can never be met and you can never be satiated as a human. So, you know, I do agree though that there's, you know, other things that you need to make sure that the kids still getting their clothes and their shoes and everything else. That I 100% agree with. But it's, you know, there's other things that I don't think you can quantify necessarily. That
so it's okay for child support to go to rent and electric and stuff like that.
Well, it's supposed to support the child in every day of his life. And every day of our life we have incidental costs. The gas it takes to get the child to and from school. I mean, as silly as that is, but if, you know, that's a lot of money to some people. You know, if they didn't have that child support coming in, they couldn't put the gas in the car to take them to school because maybe they don't live close enough for a bus, or maybe there's an issue in that schooling district and that would be too long of a bus ride because, you know, would you want to put a kindergarten on a bus for 2 hours?
No.
So, and that might be something that they, you know, they had to factor in as a family, and they need that money just to do the very basics.
Oh, I see.
So if you're working with a client and the client and your client is not happy with the child support ruling, it sounds like that explanation right there might make a reasonable person, an unreasonable person can't be reasoned with, but a reasonable person would say, okay, I see it your way, and then come down, you know, not necessarily be so adamant about opposing it.
I mean, I get it, because I get it on both sides. I get people who are angry that their amount is too low, and then I get angry from the other side, you know, when they're paying too much. Right. And it's literally, in the state of Florida, boils down to a formula. And that they've set the minimum. You could always give more, but the state of Florida says this is the minimum. Even if a parent doesn't work, and that becomes a problem on both sides. You know, let's say the mom's working and has majority time, but the dad doesn't work. He still could be obligated to pay child support because they impute a salary.
Always amazing listening to you, Vanessa. Call Vanessa at her office because obviously we're getting ready to go off the air, but these issues are so serious. You really do want to sit across the desk. 804-0092 is Vanessa's number, and your address again?
It is 2945 Northeast 3rd Street, Ocala, Florida 34470.
Thank you, Vanessa.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
You all as well.
This is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Fox CBS News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. President Obama speaking out on the decision by the UK to leave the European Union, saying the U.S. respects the decision by the people of the United Kingdom and that the special relationship between our countries will